What inspires innovation, advances in sustainable technology? What pushes the frontiers of business? Breakthroughs in medicine, voyages in space. Well, it all starts with data. And for decades, Hitachi Vantara has been building data's strongest, most resilient infrastructure, protecting its integrity, unlocking its true value. Whenever data is created, wherever it's stored, we're there, orchestrating simplicity and security by bringing data clarity to mission-critical environments. With over 17,000 customers and partners, global enterprises trust Hitachi Vantara. Combining Japanese precision engineering with Silicon Valley AI-powered innovation, we are architecting the world's data foundation, a foundation that endures change. Hitachi Vantara, the data foundation for innovation.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon to all of you. By the way, my name is Ella. I'm your host for today. And I just want to say that I love the energy that you are all showing because I see that everyone's saying good morning, hi. So, just to, get to know you guys, I want to say hi to all of you. So, do say hi and then introduce yourself. I'll be starting it. This is me. Hi, I'm Ella. Just so we could also, test out your chat boxes because later we will be having a Q&A portion. So if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them on your chat box. Okay? Hi Wesley. Hi to Hemant. Hi to Gaurav. Okay, I see a lot of you guys saying hi. Hi everyone. I'm so glad that you joined us here today for our webinar Accelerating Environmental Sustainability with Your Data. We are very much delighted to have you with us today. And of course, today we will explore how choosing the right data platforms can help you manage data more efficiently and economically while reducing energy consumption and minimizing environmental impact. Of course, this session is brought to you in partnership with Elevate Space and Hitachi Vantara, a wholly owned subsidiary of Hitachi Limited. Hitachi Vantara is dedicated to guiding their customers from what's now to what's next. Of course, in solving digital challenges along the way. If you'd like to learn more about the services, feel free to visit hitachivantara.com. So, without further ado, let's review the agenda, which is now in your screen. So, we do have right now the opening remarks, then we will be having the live presentation. And like what I said earlier, we will be having a Q&A. Of course, we will be sharing the handouts later as well, so you will be able to download it later. Okay, now to our exciting part, I would like to introduce our amazing speaker for today's session. Getting greener, accelerating environmental sustainability with your data. We are very much thrilled to have Matthew Hardman with us today. Now, Matthew currently holds the role as Chief Technology Officer across the Asia Pacific region, where he champions the development of a team of technical professionals, in addition to leading the creation and execution of strategies to address customer needs to accelerate value realization and competitive advantage. Hi, Matthew.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing great. So now the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate everybody being here today. It is a really important topic. As such, I've made my background green. I've worn my green bow tie and I'm sipping on my green tea. But in all seriousness, some of these things are very, very on the surface type actions. What I want to do today is to be able to talk about some of the things that are going on in the world that we live in today and what we can do in terms of actually making proactive choices. So hopefully you'll be able to sort of follow along. Some of these choices, you know what, they're not overly complicated, but every single choice adds up to a tangible change we can actually have in our environment. So what I'm going to do is to go over and share my presentation today. I might even try and really freak out the organizers because I have a pen in my hand and I have an iPad, and I might actually do a little bit of basic whiteboarding to talk about some of these things as well. But let's see how technology pans out. So first off, Hitachi Vantara, or Hitachi in general. I've been working here for a number of years. In fact, this is the second time I've been at Hitachi. And one of the things I will tell you is that as an organization, Hitachi is very committed to environmental sustainable practices. In fact, all sort of practices around sustainability. I think it's important that when you talk about sustainability, it's not one thing, right? I will tell you from my personal experience, talked about sustainability, and someone asked me very blankly, what sustainability are you talking about, Matt? And I looked back and said, well, I'm talking about sustainability. And they said, yeah, but which one? Is it environment sustainability? Is it social sustainability? Is it governance? Like, what is the sustainability you're actually talking about? And it helped me along the way to learn to sort of say, hey, sustainability comes in many different ways. There's sustainability for cultures, there's sustainability for people and economics and things like that. What we're going to talk about today is environmental sustainability and the impact that we have on the environment. Certainly as an organization, we do focus on social sustainability, we focus on governance and economic sustainability and all those different things. But the environmental sustainability is something which is critical for us. And we have an organization which is both in Americas and also in Japan. And so that commitment to environmental sustainability is really, really strong. Now, to set the context, one of the things I would talk about is what is it that we're trying to help manage, right? And one of the biggest challenges that we're faced with managing today is around data. And data itself is having a tangible impact on our environment in terms of the ability of how we think about storing, protecting, making it available, utilizing, and all these different things. Now, this is a great study, and there's 100 different studies you can actually find about data. I like this one from Digital Trust, which talks about data gravity. And the concept around data gravity is that as you build and develop data over time, so I'm going to turn my phone onto silent, as you go ahead and actually capture data over time, it starts to establish its own gravity. It actually starts to attract systems to it, and some of those systems start to attract more data, and that actually starts to attract choices on infrastructure and technology and a whole range of different things. Now, as we look across the different regions, when you sort of look at LATAM, North America, EMEA, and Asia Pacific, where we live today, is probably one of the largest contributors of data in the world. And what you'll see here from this number is 461,000 exabytes of data. Like, just get that into your head for a second. 461,000 exabytes of data. It's absolutely huge. And people will sort of say, a lot of this is being generated in the cloud, but the reality is most of the data we see being generated is actually outside of the cloud. It's being generated at the edge. It's being generated in data centers. It's being generated in customer-owned premises. So there is absolutely an opportunity for us to be able to think about how do we manage this data differently? How do we start making choices which will fundamentally have a reduced impact on the actual environment itself? Certainly, as we start getting into realms of innovation around AI, there's a much greater emphasis on the retention and the leverage of data inside an organization. So as companies pursue a strategy of innovation and for artificial intelligence, the focus on capturing data becomes much, much bigger all the time. So there's a couple of things I would sort of say around data, which I think sets us up for the conversation today and why you need to make some of those decisions. So I'm going to try something here, and let's see if I can get this onto the actual screen here. I'm going to share this window. And that's just coming up. Okay, that looks like it's working. The event team didn't know I was going to go ahead and actually do this, so hopefully this works and I won't get into trouble. But, you know, we've been talking a lot about data, right? So this is where we see data today, right? It's this big sort of amorphous thing that people typically talk about. But there's three factors that I see when I speak to customers that they're experiencing around data. This is why the environmental sustainability aspects of it become super important. The first factor that we sort of see as an outward pressure is just generally data growth, the amount of data that customers are generating. And more you see the digitization of systems and processes and services is just capturing more and more data. In fact, we don't just capture the data anymore. We are capturing how we capture the data. We're capturing the logistics or the signals of how we capture data. I had a conversation with a customer in India, and they do rural banking. And he said to me, Matt, it doesn't matter the value of the transaction. They're still the same in terms of how much data we capture, and we're capturing more and more data than we ever did before. It's not just the transaction, but what was the originating device on a transaction? What were the actual leaps to get to that transaction? Who did it end up with? A range of different things. So the more complicated we get, the amount of data we're capturing just keeps growing. The other thing, which I think is interesting as well, is the fact that the data we are capturing is no longer just transactional data. We are kind of getting into a situation where the data is being captured from everywhere, from the edge, from the data center, from devices, from a whole range of different things, but also it's of every type. And what I mean by that is we see more and more data that is not just ones and zeros, but well, it eventually becomes ones and zeros, but we're seeing data of a whole range of different types. We're seeing video, we're seeing audio, we're seeing images, we're seeing massive log data, a whole range of different things. And those types of data have a whole range of different characteristics and different technologies that you need to be able to store and analyze and identify and all those different things. So, that challenge where customers are collecting data from different locations and of different types become really challenging. And then the last thing, which I would sort of say is another outward facing factor, let me just bring that up a little bit, is a question of value. Now, I put this as a question mark because people quite often say all data is valuable. And I get at that period of time that you might think that all data is valuable. But when you apply the factor of time over data, the value can essentially start to change, right? So my PowerPoint presentation that I'm running through today might on the surface look really, really valuable at this moment in time. But maybe 10 years from now, it won't be so valuable. Maybe the data is irrelevant or the facts are irrelevant. But then if you compare data that might be something like a person's birth date or their blood tests or a range of sort of personal identifiable information, confidential, sensitive data, those things, those pieces of data will hold value for a longer period of time. And based on the understanding of value, you also have to make effective decisions as to how do you store and protect this data. So we see many customers struggling with a lot of these different dimensions in terms of what is actually happening in the capturing of data. And all of these different choices have a tangible impact or can have an impact in the way you think about making choices around environmental sustainability as it applies to managing this data. So that's something that I wanted to be able to sort of set the context on. So let me go back to my presentation here. And I'm so glad I think that worked. I hope that actually worked for everybody. If it didn't, let me know on the conversation there. Now, this is an interesting thing. Again, this actually just came up this week at COP29, which was the Declaration on Green Digital Action. And this is why this is becoming so important. Many of the bodies who are involved in environmental sustainability are becoming much more aware and very, very concerned about the potential impact of innovation in the environment. Innovation quite often is looked as a good thing, and it is a good thing. It's great to be able to see how we would approach an older problem, an existing solution, and find ways to make it better, to make it more impactful, to make it more effective, to help our customers, to help our partners, whatever it actually is. Innovation's great, but innovation does come sometimes at a cost, right? It's not always benefits and efficiencies. And I think one of the big things, as we sort of talked about, and we'll probably come back to a lot, is how is innovation impacting the environment? Again, AI, one of those workloads, which is very, very heavily intensive on GPUs, consumes a lot of electricity. And if we're not able to make these systems more effective or more environmentally conscious, and the acquisition of electricity and energy to supply these different things are being made with good choices, then all this innovation for all this benefit is just going to tear through our environment. And we want to make a conscious decision to make choices that are good for the environment, but also facilitate a good innovation in terms of what we do. And so the Green Digital Action Declaration is really about making sure that we have a very intentional decision-making process around what technologies that customers should invest in for the future. I think many of the people that are actually on this call today, the fact you're here demonstrates that you are caring and concerned for the environment of what we live in. But it's really not just our environment, it's for the environment of our next generation, for my children and their children. And so we have to start making decisions today to be able to change this. Now, some of the things that they talked about in this declaration, and I won't go through all of these things. I know this is a massive amount of text, and I just literally did a copy and paste of what was in there, and we can put the link in the to the actual document later on. But there's 8 things that they sort of called out that they want to be able to try and affect change in our environment and IT. So how do we use digital technologies and tools for climate action? So how do we get better insights as to what we can do to understand the current situation? How do we understand our impact on the environment? How are we affecting change and sustainability? Tools and observability systems will help us get a better insight in terms of what's actually going on. But then as we start to go down further in this list, it's really about making sure that products and technologies and systems are designed with an environmental mindset in mind. What is the actual compute that I have to go ahead and actually use? What are the resources of the systems that I need to go ahead and actually bring together to deliver this innovation? It also then puts a greater emphasis on the people and the organizations who are developing those technologies to make available to customers, how they think about environmental sustainability as well. So that puts a lot of responsibility in organizations like us at Hitachi Vantara to ensure that when we bring products to market, we're doing it in such a way that's helping customers and consumers achieve their environmental sustainability outcomes. So, as I said, I won't go through every single one here. We'll put the link in here into the chat so you have access to it. But it really is a moment in time where many organizations are looking at what's actually going on in their environments and trying to say, how do I make a better decision? What can I go ahead and actually do? Now, one of the things that I think it's important when you start embarking on a journey of environmental sustainability actions inside your organization is to understand this concept of scope of value chain emissions. What this basically is a model which is applied to understand scopes of emissions, what you can control through your own actions, what you can control through choices, and then some of the things you can't necessarily control yourself. Again, can be influenced by your choices, but a little bit less of a control. Direct emissions, the first one we see there, is really about the things that you can control within your organization itself, right? So the way you operate, what is the temperature I set the air conditioning in the environment to? What's the utilization of certain lights in our office? How do I turn those lights on and off? Like, it's all of those different things that you physically control to be able to have an impact inside your actual environment itself, right? You control that. You're a complete making all the decisions. The second one is on indirect emissions. And this is emissions which are resulting from the fact that the energy you choose to consume, what is the impact of that energy generation itself? So let's say, for example, you choose to purchase electricity from an organization that is generating it from coal, right? Burning coal. That's obviously going to be very heavy on the scope 2 emissions, because the burning of coal creates lots of greenhouse gas emissions and it's not great for the environment. So your scope 2 emissions would be very, very high. Now, if you chose to go with, say, energy generation from a solar farm or a wind turbine, then the scope 2 emissions would be reduced. So you can't necessarily control how that organization generates or manages their greenhouse gas emissions, but through your choice of where you're acquiring that electricity from has a tangible impact on the environment. And then the last one, the other indirect emissions, is really where you have very limited choice. It can sometimes be similar to scope 2, where you make some choices based on who you work with, where you can actually have a choice on how emissions are generated. But this is largely kind of out of your control, but you are choosing to work with organizations around this. So let's say, for example, your company works with a logistics company, and that logistic company drives trucks that consumes petrol, and their energy, the engines aren't efficient and they're burning through lots of petrol. That's not great for scope 3 emissions. If the cars that were driving around doing deliveries were solar powered, right, as an example, then that would obviously be a better one for scope 3 emissions as well. So harder to control at this point, right, when you start getting into other indirect emissions. So as you think through a strategy of how I'm looking at affecting change in my organization from environmental sustainability, you have to start breaking these things up into scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. One of the ones I would call out here is where some people sort of say, well, you know what, if I go and utilize cloud computing, then I'm effectively reducing my greenhouse gas emissions, right? Because I'm not running infrastructure on premise. I'm not necessarily worried about that anymore. So I've done a good thing, right? It's interpretive. In fact, what I would say you're doing, if you're thinking about migrating all of your applications and all of your infrastructure over to the cloud, you haven't necessarily eliminated your impact. You're essentially moving your impact from scope 1, your direct emissions, over into scope 3, into indirect emissions. And you can't necessarily control exactly what's going on from that point of view. You may get some efficiencies, you may not. I mean, I've had conversations with some people about cloud computing and building applications. And what's been really interesting is that sometimes by moving to the cloud, there's this sort of concept of, hey, there's unlimited scale and there's no restrictions. I can build these crazy big things. But that mindset doesn't necessarily address that whole idea about environmental sustainability, because you're consuming more resources and maybe you're writing code more inefficiently, and that could be a downside. I'm not saying that always happens, but it can happen, and I've seen it actually happen. Sometimes there's an argument to be made that when you actually run some of these things on premise and you do have a scarcity of resources, it forces innovation in the way of actually building your applications and services in a way to be optimized. So, you know, there's value in terms of what you can do in cloud, there's value what you can do on-prem, but the important thing here is really about what are the conscious decisions you're actually making to invest in technologies and solutions that have an environmental benefit at the end of the day itself. Now, going into some of the work that we do specifically around Hitachi Vantara, the way we build the technology that we provide to customers, we don't necessarily just look at one vector and say this is environmental sustainability. A lot of what we do is look at the entire life cycle of the technology that we develop to ensure that customers can actually benefit all the way through. Because when I think about the concept of the scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 of emissions, when we work with customers, we are impacting both their scope 1 emissions when they're operating technology and running their solutions in their environments, but we're also impacting scope 3 emissions. So when do we build those products? How do we get those products to our customers? Scope 3 emissions is something that we also need to take a responsibility and accountability for when we deliver technologies to our customers. So we have this concept of circular economics. We look at every single stage of the design life cycle, all the way from raw material acquisition, design, building, everything, all the way through to the actual recycling of the product. That is what we take accountability and responsibility for as it relates to environmental sustainability. So that life cycle is not just operations. It's very much about the entirety of that product from creation to elimination. Now, what's really interesting is that there are many different organizations who measure this in different ways. And I'm going to show you a couple of the ways that it's measured. One of them you'll probably know very, very well, which is Energy Star. But another one, which is something that we invest a lot of energy in, is called CFP, or Carbon Footprint for Product, which comes from Japan. And they look at things very, very holistically, not just the operation of the technology, but the entire life cycle of the technology as well. So let's jump into that. So I almost spoke about this entire slide. So these are the two we look at, right? Carbon footprint of products. As I said, this is very much about a way to visualize and understand the entire life cycle of a product from a greenhouse gas emission or CO2 emissions, right? And what's really interesting is that this is a fantastic website. It's really interesting if you really wanted to understand the environmental impact of everything, at least all the products manufactured in Japan. This is an interesting site to go ahead and actually have a look at. I can show you examples of some of the reporting of what Japan actually does. But what I can also say to you is that they also do the same thing for makeup products and a photocopier and a bunch of flowers and a whole range of different things. They look at the entire life cycle of those products. So I'm just going to take a moment. People are saying that there's issues with the screen. I think, can people see my screen okay? I'm looking at how Hitachi products can contribute. I think people can see it. Okay, some people might have a problem. Hopefully it's okay. Thank you so much, everybody. So the CFP is a Japanese way that they've actually gone to look at the carbon impact of our products. Now, the thing I will tell you as well about this is that this is also independently audited by third parties from the government. So it's not just a marketing thing. Sometimes we get concerned about the concept of greenwashing, where we use environmental sustainability aspects as a way to market. But this is officially submitted and assessed by government bodies to say that they have tested the product under certain conditions and have evaluated what is the situation in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. From a more broader international way, we actually have as well the Energy Star ratings as well. And Energy Star works across a large number of different products, consumer products and commercial products, a whole range of different things. And they have a category which is exclusively focused on data center products. And so what you can do there is they have lots and lots of information about energy consumption, about performance, a whole range of different things that you can actually look up for any product you want that's in that particular market. And so we make sure, and we assess ourselves and continually challenge ourselves about what we can do better. We look at both of these different organizations or different practices to ensure we're doing the right things for our customers. So the products which we look at a lot in terms of delivering on these aspects of environmental sustainability, we have our I guess last generation of technology, which is the E590, E790, the E1090. These still are very, very, very products that people use every single day and still buy today. On the right-hand side here, these are all certified. But then we also have our next generation technologies, which have hit the market since, I want to say about June, our VSP1 Block 24, 26, and 28 technologies as well. And so both of these sets of technologies are available in the assessment in both Energy Star and also in CFP, which is now being called EcoLeaf. So from an Energy Star point of view, and I won't get you to sort of try and squint and read all this different stuff, but you can actually see what's being measured in the Energy Star certifications. And there's this concept of IOPS per watt. I'm going to talk about this a lot in terms of environmental sustainability and why IOPS per watt is super important, because it is something which is being agreed upon by a number of industry bodies to say this is how you start measuring environmental sustainability of certain products, because that's one of the biggest challenges when we talk to customers. They ask us, what is the indicator? Like, everybody says they're green, everybody says they're doing the right thing. How do you actually measure the effectiveness of certain products? IOPS per watt is becoming a measure which is accepted by many organizations and certainly some of the standards bodies as well. The Block 20 CFP on the right-hand side, this is the example of the carbon footprint of products reports that go through here. And this one will tell you, it's hard to sort of see, but if I draw your attention to the front one down the bottom, which says Hitachi Virtual Storage Platform 1, Block 24, just at that bottom, you can see there the third party verified as a person's actual name who actually is verifying that, right? So it's not, here's the numbers that we submit and go and publish them. It's someone who actively goes through and verifies the data which is going through, and they test it and make sure that it's meeting certain numbers which are published through those actual tests itself. So that's why these tests are so important to us. So I wanted to talk about that IOPS per watt. Why is IOPS per watt so important, right? And this is the measure which is being adopted by Energy Star to look at environmental sustainability and performance of products overall. Now, this wasn't created by Energy Star. It was actually a measure which was created by the Storage and Networking Industry Association. So it's a body of organizations that include vendors, partners, customers, a whole range of different organizations that come together and say, how do we effectively look at different aspects of this ecosystem and this community to be able to affect a positive change? And so for environmental sustainability, they looked at this one called IOPS per watt. Now, what's really interesting, the name of IOPS per watt makes a lot of sense to all of us. The official name that they use for this measurement is what's at the top here, which is trans-optimal point hot band workload. I never get this right. I'll be completely honest with you. Every time I try and remember this, I always get it wrong. I just say IOPS per watt. People get IOPS per watt, but the official name is trans-optimal point hot band workload. It's kind of fairly crazy. But IOPS per watt is what people look at, right? Now, IOPS per watt is something which is equivalent to a car. When you might say, in America, that's probably say miles per gallon. Or in Australia, which I'm from, in Singapore, you'd probably say how many kilometers per litre you'd get, or how many litres per 100 kilometers would you consume. It's that sort of a measure, right? So if you think about IOPS per watt, it's how many transactions per wattage of electricity consumed that you get from your storage arrays. And the intention is, the higher your IOPS per watt that you get, the better it is in terms of environmental impact. So this is actually publicly available information and independently assessed. And so I wanted to put up the numbers, and this is where I get really proud of the fact of the work we actually do. Again, the fact that we build and produce our products in Japan is this incessant incessant is probably a bad word, but this very intentional effort to make sure we dramatically improve the environmental sustainability of our products. And so what you sort of see is that our VSB block 28, 26, our 1090, positions 1, 2, and 3 compared against all of the other vendors in the market. In fact, we're at position 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7, and then the E590 further on. So these numbers and the numbers which are being submitted for that IOPS per watt really demonstrate this commitment to ensuring that we deliver on the environmental impact, or at least a reduction of the environmental impact that data management actually has in terms of our overall product. So I'm excited about that innovation. And that happens because the way we design our products is really about a combination of things such as software, such as hardware. It comes down to the power supplies that you put into these different storage arrays. So it doesn't just happen magically. It's really a very orchestrated and planned approach to designing the technology. Like I talked about that circular design methodology before, the design aspects have to have environmental sustainability in mind at the beginning. It's not something you do afterwards. Now, some of the things that we do to continue that is in the operations of the technology itself, right? So, over the years, if you look at that chart on the bottom right-hand side, with each iteration of the technology, what we start to go ahead and actually see is we're able to dramatically reduce the greenhouse gas emissions or CO2 emissions per terabyte for each individual storage array. Now, we're looking here at the large-scale enterprise arrays here, so the G1000s, G1500. You don't need to remember all the product names, but just know that making sure that we continually reduce the CO2 emissions coming from those storage arrays with every subsequent release means reducing the actual impact for a lot of our customers. And so this is actually really, really important. And what we've done as well over the years is build in capabilities such as this thing here called Modern Storage Assurance, where instead of having to say, well, I want to move from one data storage platform to the next one, I've got to tear out the old one and put in a whole brand new one. We've actually designed it in such a way where we can actually remove just the intelligence of the storage array and then put in a brand new storage array, which will essentially help to modernize that storage array and reuse a lot of the component architecture inside those storage arrays as well. So you're able to get the most modern storage arrays, but really make sure you're maximizing the long-term efficient usage of those individual platforms. So, these sorts of infrastructure technologies are really, really important. And if you look over to the left-hand side, you can see an example of a customer who, as they've gone and modernized their data infrastructure, the incredible savings they're getting. I mean, 96.5% electricity savings in their storage arrays. And it's not just the storage arrays, but as you start to think about the levels of efficiencies you gain, it starts to take up less space. It starts to impact from a environmental, so less cooling is actually required. There's a whole range of benefits that can be realized because you're continually modernizing that. You're getting the modernization of the infrastructure, but then you're also benefiting from the innovations around data management and all those different things to reduce your impact from the environment. Now, one of those things which is incredibly useful as a way to help reduce footprint is the concept of data compression, right? And what data compression actually does is to help reduce the amount of storage you require to run your applications. What we tend to find a lot is that there is a lot of data that can be compressed, that can be deduplicated, right? Because it's repeated information. And when you start to get to some of these really intelligent storage arrays, there is enough compute power and capabilities for the software to work with specially designed hardware to help identify those areas of optimization. And so we have a technology called ADR. And what ADR does is it uses a combination of compression and deduplication with specially designed hardware to look at your data and effectively reduce the amount of storage it requires to run. And what we have in our new VSP1 Block 28 and Block 26 is a commitment to our customers to deliver 4-to-1 data reduction. And do that from a point of view about no questions asked. And I'll talk about that in a sec because I'm excited. But imagine, if you will, if you needed to say, provision a storage array for an application or a particular service, and you said, hey, I need 400 terabytes of storage, you could provision that storage array with 100 terabytes of storage. And through 4-to-1 data reduction, you'd be able to actually run an effective capacity of 400 terabytes off 100 terabytes, effectively meaning you have less drives, you have less points of failure, you have less electricity being consumed overall. So this 4-to-1 data compression has an instrumental impact on the environmental sustainability of your actual products from that point of view. Now, the NQA aspect, the no questions asked about this, is super important because we're not alone as a technology vendor offering some form of data reduction. Many different customers offer data reduction. The one thing we do differently here is we don't ask questions about it. There's no contract you have to sign. There's no special conditions. If you are not getting a 4-to-1 effective capacity from your storage purchase on those Block 26 and Block 28 storage arrays, then we will actually provide you additional storage to make up that commitment. We don't ask you the questions why. We don't ask you what data you actually have. We just want to see the numbers, and we'll look at the gap and we'll say, here, we'll go ahead and actually fix it up, because we believe in that technology and the environmental impact. We want to make sure that that doesn't come at a cost to you. So that 4-to-1 no questions asked is super important to us from a commitment angle. And that's why, again, in our design and our technology makes that possible. The other thing which I think is interesting of recent time is the introduction of QLC. Now, QLC media is something that we support in our block storage array, in our block 26. And what that does is it gives you an incredible amount of density at lower cost in your storage arrays. Now, what is interesting is that sometimes people sort of see QLC as the answer to everything. And it's an interesting technology, having, quad cells in storage versus 3 cells and 2 cells and all these different things. But QLC does have challenges. It's not a really good storage for high intensity write drives and things like that. What it's really, really good at is read intensive workloads, or, workloads that you're not writing a lot of information to. So for long-term backup, it's pretty good. For reading data for AI and analytics, it might be a really, really good one. But for your typical applications, like say a write-intensive database, something very, very transactional, it's not going to be fantastic. The best way I sort of see QLC as a way to think about areas of optimization for environmental sustainability is to compare QLC against what you might have in your data centers that are running traditional hard drives, spinning drives and things like that. Hard drives themselves do consume lots of electricity because they actually have lots and lots of moving parts. They're prone to failure and those sorts of things. So QLC is a great way to think about the modernization of those storage arrays. You can actually get that storage density at a much reduced price. The electricity consumption comes down. I think it's upwards of, it says there, right, in terms of for generative AI, it's about 81%. I've heard numbers ranging from 60 to 80%, but those QLC drives will consume a lot less power than will a traditional hard drive in a storage array. So I think there's a real opportunity for people to look at aging storage environments that use traditional hard drives and move them over to systems that have QLC to get that high level of density, that better reliability of your storage, but ultimately a better impact on the overall environment as well. Some people asked in the questions tools to be able to go ahead and actually manage it. I've talked about some of the reports and the submitted numbers, but we also make sure that we are building tools into our management platforms as well in ClearSight to be able to give you insights as to what's actually going on. So somebody talked about looking at data at rest and things like that. This is an example of the sustainability dashboard we offer in the products, where you can look at your data center and look at look at the block storage you have in your environment, look at the energy consumption, the progress you're having, heat generation. You can look at individual storage arrays and even get suggestions as to how you can improve this over time. So, we want to be able to make sure that we build good products that have good sustainability practices within them, but then we also want to provide you the observability tools to make sure you can see where the areas of optimization actually are as well. So it's that sort of end-to-end view. Now, I know I'm running out of time very quickly. This is a very passionate topic, and I hope it's still enjoyable. But here's what's interesting. Block storage is typically a storage technology that is utilized for structured data, relational data, data inside databases, VMware workload environments, that sort of transactional structured data. But there in the world today, where we see lots of growth, and I talked about this at the beginning, was lots of different types of data that are coming out. And unstructured data is becoming something which is really, really challenging for a lot of organizations. And what we do see sometimes is that when customers apply a single type of storage approach to all of their data, you're not essentially optimizing yourself from either a cost point of view, from an environmental sustainability point of view, from an efficiency point of view. So when it comes down to unstructured data, it's important to look at opportunities for you to modernize that environment and start applying different techniques to it. So one of the things we actually see around unstructured data, and unstructured data is things like images, video, audio, a whole range of things that don't fit into a table. There is just lots of it, right? I mean, look at some of the numbers here. 2.5 billion gigabytes of data is created every day, with 50% being dark data, which means people don't know where it actually is, what it's being utilized for, why do you actually go and need it. We see situations where data is just copied over and over again, like 13 copies of each data object. There's a lot of things that are happening when we think about unstructured data. And it's a huge opportunity to be able to go ahead and actually address this from a environmental sustainability point of view. And certainly some of these technologies we talk about, such as data deduplication and compression, will ultimately actually help customers. But we also then look at what can we do around other technologies and other storage types to be able to help manage these different issues. And so technology is one part, but it's also how do you more intelligently manage data? Like, how do you identify it? Where do you put it into the right optimized technologies? Do you move it into a storage which might be really, really good for a long-term retention? Like, if you thought about it for a second, you might say, hey, I might have data that's sitting inside a storage array that might be block storage, and I want to get it to somewhere where I can put it into a long-term array. I might move it from block into object, and the object storage I might utilize could be something which is backed by QLC drives, for example, and provides me a way to have a read-only long-term retention. Those are the sorts of choices you can actually make. It's about taking and making active decisions around data, understanding what you have. Remember, we talked about that value aspect, understanding what data you have, where do you want to go ahead and put it in a storage platform which is really optimized for the outcomes as you start to think about all these different things, from performance, cost, scalability, environmental sustainability. So being able to have good data practices is absolutely key in terms of what needs to be done from an environmental sustainability point of view. And so, as an example, one of the customers that we've actually worked with, they looked at actually implementing object storage for unstructured data inside their environments as well. And what you sort of see here is some of the benefits they're getting. I mean, forget about the usable capacity savings at the front there. It's very important. But look at the power and cost savings, right? 51%. They've saved 627 tons of CO2 over 5 years. It has tangible impacts. And so when you understand the data and start to strategize about where you place data into which storage architectures, it does have a tangible benefit in terms of the environmental impact as well. So that's super important. I'll skip over the slide. Actually, this is a repeated information from the first slide, but we do see real results when customers make optimized decisions about their storage infrastructure. So a lot of this work that I've sort of talked about is really manifesting in what we're trying to do around our portfolio of technologies. And you'll hear us talk a lot about VSP1, but the work that we do is not about delivering sustainability in siloed areas. It's not about sustainability for block or sustainability for object or sustainability for file. But what we really are going ahead and actually doing is making sure that the work that we do around sustainability of our products should be able to support all the different data architectures that you choose. The work that we do on observability should be focused across all those different data architectures in terms of what you choose. So based on what your workload actually is, you shouldn't have to choose different approaches to sustainability. You should be able to benefit from the efforts on both observability and from the underlying infrastructure to make it beneficial for you. So that's the end. I sort of went through very quickly. I get very passionate about this. There's lots of different stories that we can get to talk to, but I also recognize that we have a short time for questions, and I'm not sure how much time we actually have for questions. I probably need to go ahead and actually check. But what I'm going to try and actually do is answer some of these questions that people are asking, because there's a lot, and perhaps the team here can actually give me an indication as to how much time I actually have. But I'm going to try and actually answer the questions from the top as we go through. And I'm going to do my best. Some questions I may not be able to answer because they get very, very specific. And we'll try and actually work out how we get those answers back to you. So if I go from I'm trying to work out, do I go for, newest, let's go from oldest. Because we want to make sure that people ask the first questions worked out first. The first question is, how can we ensure that data-driven technologies are used to combat environmental challenges such as AI, IoT, and blockchain? How do I make this bigger? I have an operational issue just to be able to see the size of the question. Oh, maybe that's just a thing. So how can we ensure that data-driven technology is used to combat environmental challenges such as AI, IoT, and blockchain? Yeah, okay, gotcha. Look, I would say to you, every workload can sometimes be very, very challenging, right? I think the one right now, when we think about AI, is one where it's like, hey, there's a lot of ingestion of data to be able to feed into a training model, an LLM or whatever it actually is, and they want to do it really, really fast, right? They want to get that information as quickly as possible. But in some of those training, you're not going to go ahead and actually consume all the data all at once. You might be looking at segments of the entire data. So I think one of the things that you can actually do to help to reduce the impact and certainly make this from an economic scalability point of view as well, is that recognize that data doesn't always have to be in one type of storage platform. Like I kind of talked about before with unstructured data and structured data. AI is an example. If you think about GPUs and then you have a file system underneath which ingests all the data, that file system doesn't have to have everything in it, right? And I think that's what a lot of people design, to have everything in the file system. But what you can do is tier off some of that data into more economical storage that isn't so intensive. So we might go and actually tier that data from the file system into an object storage system, which has better efficiencies in terms of energy consumption, better efficiencies in terms of economical scale, that sort of thing. So you can structure data in different ways. IoT, for example, IoT is capturing lots of information all the time. I would question and sort of say, do you need every single piece of data on IoT? Perhaps this becomes intelligent data management. The most recent data you might want to make accessible as possible, right? Later data, it sounds kind of funny. Later stage data, you might go ahead and actually put into an archive, which is a little bit more attuned. And then maybe at some point, you maybe actually get rid of some of that data. And I know in the realm of regulation and data compliance, you have to hold data for a longer period of time, but there maybe is the opportunity to be able to sort of say, okay, what do we need to keep and what can we get rid of? So you have choices in terms of how you architect and structure data architectures to help you achieve some of those different outcomes. I hope that helps answer that question there. Let's go to the next one here. What are the biggest challenges in collecting reliable data for sustainability initiatives? Super good question, super challenging. As I sort of said, we go back to that concept of scope of emissions. Scope 1 emissions is probably something you can control a little bit more and can probably measure a little bit better. Certainly there are systems you can purchase which gives you measures into environmental sustainability. Sometimes you go into offices and they say, here's our impact, like here's our energy consumption. If you're able to plug into kind of like those IoT systems, look at consumption, those are the things that you can go ahead and actually capture. I think the challenges start to come into when you get into scope 2 and scope 3, right? Scope 2, you can't really collect reliable data on maybe the energy consumption of an electricity generation company. They might produce some information, but they're not necessarily saying this is how much coal we burn and this is how much greenhouse gases. They might have that generically, but that doesn't equate to exactly what you consume. So it becomes a little bit challenging. You might do some sort of funky calculations. Scope 3 emissions, very, very difficult. In fact, it's recognized as that is probably one of the hardest things to be able to go ahead and actually measure and more difficult to actually have an impact on change. So, it's challenging. I think being able to look at scope 1 and scope 2, measure what you can, make sure it's intentional and address it, make good decisions. And I think, even before sort of getting reliable data is probably holding people accountable and saying, what are your strategies around environmental sustainability? What can you go ahead and actually do? I know from our technology, we're providing that observability so you can see what our storage actually does, but it's one part of a bigger solution that you need to look at from that point of view. So thank you, Vivek. Okay, from Zulhusini, let me have a look here. What key considerations for effective data-driven sustainability? Kind of what I sort of said, right? There's the aspects of what you'd sort of do from a technology purchasing point of view. It's not just about the operations, but what is the company that's building that technology? What's their principles behind environmental sustainability and how they actually manufacture? It's about how you think about data. It really is a case where you sort of say, there's no one size fits all. You've got to look at the different data challenges you have and identify the right data architectures, right? It's not all block, it's not all file. It's going to vary based on what you have. And that might vary based on how you're going to use the data. What's the sort of data you're going to use? How often are you going to use the data? All of those different questions work through into a data strategy, which should have a tangible impact on data-driven sustainability. So understand your data, understand the applications of the data, and then start to assess the choices you actually have to be able to achieve that. Are you sharing the slides or the webinar video later on? I would guess we probably are, but I'm sure the event team will probably send an email out after that one. What technology, Manish asked, what technology or process Hitachi uses in storage boxes to make them more energy efficient boxes? Like I sort of said, we've got, we design our technology from an operational point of view. So the power sources or the power boxes we actually have in those things are platinum rated, I think, or it's at least they're getting close to the highest rating of power optimization. We have software and dedicated hardware that does data reduction and compression to make sure that we can sort of save on what you need. Our processes around modern storage assurance to ensure that you can actually have less of an environmental impact when modernizing your environments. Another thing which is interesting as well, and I didn't talk about this, but the aspect of storage virtualization. We know many customers have aging storage arrays, which may not be up to spec in terms of environmental sustainability impacts. And so what we've been able to do is to apply storage virtualization for those storage arrays, because it's very easy to say, hey, you should modernize your block storage environments to the more modern ones because it's better for the environment. But there's migrations and a whole range of different things. One of the things we can do with storage virtualization is to virtualize older storage arrays behind our modern storage arrays, give you the modern management capabilities to get insights and all those different things. But then you can also start to migrate your data off those old storage arrays onto the modern one and do it in a way which is non-disruptive. So what I mean by that is that your application will continue to run. It will still have access to the data, but I can actually migrate it across. And we did this demonstration on stage in India at an event recently where we migrated data live, but as we were migrating it, the data was still being utilized. There was no interruption. So those sorts of things are helping to modernize the environments and helping to take advantage of some of those technologies as well. And then some of the other things we talked about, monitoring tools, QLC, those things are all good to be able to actually help as well. The other thing I would sort of make mention as well, when you think about QLC, and I sort of talked about it, that QLC maybe not so great for write-intensive applications. TLC as a storage technology is still very, very good. In fact, we can actually get super high density in those storage, in those TLC drives. They're up to 60 terabytes. And so you can achieve some positive impact on environmental sustainability by still adopting TLC. You know, I hear people talk about QLC all the time. I think it's great. But there are still very viable options for your existing high transactional environments for TLC with higher density drives to reduce your impact from that angle. So lots of work being done and continuing innovation in that space. Wow, here we go. From Gurav, do we have Energy Star logos for software products where Hitachi is working to promote environmental sustainability? There's no, as far as I'm aware, there's no Energy Star logos for software. It's typically hardware is what they have in Energy Star. But I could be wrong. I every time I go to Energy Star, I'm typically looking at the block storage array. So I'm not too sure if they have it for software. I think it's typically hardware at this point in time. But you can definitely go to Energy Star and you can do a search on, there's a whole lot of categories you can check out there. The next one, do you have a metric to measure watt consumption for data at rest? I would look at it and sort of say IOPS per watt. I guess that's the transactions that are sort of going on. Data at rest. I don't know if I have the metric. We certainly have the sustainability dashboards built into the into ClearSight to be able to give you an indication about how things are actually going from an environmental sustainability point of view. So I feel bad. I don't know what the actual metric is being measured there, but there is an indicator. So there is a measure which can actually be looked at in terms of electricity consumption for that storage actually sitting there. That might be a combination of storage at rest and sort of transactions and things like that, but there is something which looks at the energy consumption of those arrays. What are the 3 key steps embracing data-driven sustainability involves? I guess I'd sort of say again, make the good choices in terms of which vendors you work with and consider the entirety of the manufacturing into retirement of the product. Make good data-driven decisions as to how you go ahead and actually manage the data, and then make good decisions on the operational aspects, like how well do those technologies actually run. That's kind of the same sort of thing. Next one is the Energy Star IOPS per watt a measure they came up with for marketing purposes? No, it's done by the Storage Networking Industry Association. So it's a third body, an industry body which has actually come up with it, and it's been adopted by Energy Star as an indicator for environmental sustainability for the products. Okay, I need a drink. If Hitachi makes energy efficient boxes, will it be able to existing production box replacement, or it needs to be? Okay, I think I know what this question actually is. It's basically saying, as we make more energy efficient boxes, are you able to upgrade it versus rip and replace? I hope I'm getting that one right, Elapab. Let me try and answer this one. The answer is yes. And it's called Modern Storage Assurance. And Modern Storage Assurance allows us, if you imagine having let's take a VSP one block 26 or a 28, the way that's actually configured with drives and a controller, instead of actually saying, hey, I want to modernize this environment to the next version, I don't have to take out the entire storage array and throw it out. What I can do is remove the controller and then put in a new controller into the storage array, and that will then inherit all of the new capabilities. So the idea is that you would be able to have that infrastructure running for longer. So, that's available in a VSP1 block. It's available in our enterprise technology, so 5000 series. It's something we've done for a long time because it's part of the recognition of what we do for environmental sustainability for our products moving forward. Okay, where am I up to? Okay, do your products certified with Energy Star and CFP certifications align with sustainability standards such as ISO 14067? I actually don't know. I will have to look at that and actually find out itself. I haven't looked at the ISO 14067. Right now, our focus has been on Energy Star and CFP, but I don't know if they align to that. But it's something I'll go ahead and actually check out, because it's something I don't know about, and I'd love to be able to go ahead and actually learn. So Vivek, thank you so much for the question on that one. What are the 4 to 5 main golden rules for? Am I going for too long? You're going to tell me to start wrapping up, is it? I'm asking so many questions right now. Okay, let me answer this last one, right? What are the 4 to 5 main golden rules for attaining environmental sustainability? Wow. Okay, so I would sort of say Akhilesh, if I'm pronouncing it right. Look, what I've been talking about today is one part of environmental sustainability, right? I mean, I would say there's no green bullet, right, that you can do one thing and you've solved all of your different problems. I think you need to make sure that the first thing is everybody needs to own and be a part of the solution on this one, right? It's not just a job for IT, but it's a job for everybody. I will tell you, I'm a super weird person, because quite often, I'll give you a quick story about this one, and this is where I'm getting in trouble, so I'm going to go over time. Downstairs in the apartment building I actually live in, there's a gym. I run hopefully every single day. I try and train pretty hard. I just want to keep fit. And there is a rubbish bin out the front of that window. And next to that window is all the letterboxes. And every time I see somebody take out junk mail from their letterbox, I see them take it out and I see them dump it in the bin. And not less than 50 meters away is a recycle bin. And it really drives me crazy. I'm the person that they see in my apartment building. I'm fishing through the rubbish bin to pull out all the paper and put it into the recycle bin because it's so important to me. So I think everybody needs to know and own that this is a problem we all have to make conscious decisions on, right? It's not one part of the organization. Once everybody knows that, then hopefully everybody starts to make active decisions on environmental sustainability. That's the best thing they can go ahead and actually do. And then I would sort of say is make intentional choices you can measure, right? Because unless you can measure, either people will get exhausted very quickly because they don't know what they're having a positive impact on, or they just don't see progress and they give up, right? So I think that's an important rule, is to actually have something you can actually measure to see a positive impact from that point of view. So I better stop there because my boss, Ella, is actually getting me to wrap up in her yellow. She's not green, obviously. She's in yellow there, but I'll do the green stuff for her. So Ella, thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to answer all these different questions as well. This has been really nice. I saw somebody, I'm going to sneakily answer one last question here. There's a question here which says, can you please share the link about the green article? Let me go ahead and put that into the chat so everybody can get access to it from COP 29. Ella and everybody here today, thank you so much. It's been awesome to share some ideas and tell a story about sustainability and also what Hitachi Vantara is doing. I really thank you so much for your time, and I hope you get an opportunity to make a positive impact in the environment as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Matt, for that really insightful presentation. You can see that everyone is really engaged here. And of course, thank you to all of you who are really engaged and really asking all of those questions. Thank you, Matt. Let's all say thank you, Matt, as he exits our stage. Thank you so much. We learned a lot, and that presentation really was very informative. All right. I see a lot of people saying thank you. Thank you so much, Matt, once again. And if you guys have asked the questions earlier, and we have a lot actually, I can see here we have around 70, but that's just what's on my screen. There are a lot more. So we do know that you guys want your answers questions. So don't worry, because Hitachi team will get in touch with all of you later after this webinar. All right. And of course, the handouts are now available at the handouts tab. So you guys can download that over on the handouts tab. If you could see on the right side of your screen, right beside the chat screen, the handouts are available and you can download them right now. And of course, I would like to say thank you to everyone who joined our webinar. Thank you to all who participated, and we hope that you really learned a lot throughout this webinar. We hope to see you all in our future webinars. Once again, my name is Ella, and thank you for joining us. Okay, so now that I ended the program, we are now moving over to our raffle portion. Okay, so thank you for joining us. And of course, thank you for staying throughout this whole presentation. Now, how to join this raffle? So it's super easy. You will be seeing on the left side of your screen, there is a survey. So do scan that code and answer it. We will be giving you a few minutes to answer that. Just around 3 minutes should be fine. And then if you are done, do tell me here on our chat. I'll be waiting for you all to say done to make sure that you have answered our webinar survey. All right. So we will be giving out an Apple Watch Series 10, and of course, Amazon and Grab vouchers. So super exciting prizes up for grabs for everybody. Okay. Yes, there is a QR code located at the left side of your screen. You can just scan that, or you can click the join the survey for a chance to win. All right. Okay. Let me know if you guys can see it. And I see a lot of people have actually answered it already. I love it. You guys are so quick to it. Okay, we will be announcing the winners, so do stay tuned because I need you guys to be here when I call out your name. All right, once again, the mechanics is super simple. Just answer the survey that's located on the lower left of your screen, scan the QR code, and then later, when we will be announcing the winners, we will be having a wheel so you guys can see all of your names there. Or, well, I hope you can see your names because there are a lot of people here on our webinar right now, but we will be calling your names later. And if you are called, do say hi or present, or do make your presence known, all right? So that we can identify you. And then don't you worry because we will be contacting you after this webinar, okay? To claim your prize. You will be getting an email from Hitachi team, okay? So now I see a lot of people saying done. All right. Okay, let's wait a few more minutes for everyone to answer the survey, okay? Once again, located at the lower left of your screen. And we have the Apple Watch Series 10 as our prize, and of course, Amazon or Grab vouchers. So you can actually pick which one you want, the Amazon voucher or the Grab voucher. So we will be calling five names for that. And then one lucky winner for our grand prize, the Apple Watch Series 10. Okay, so a few more minutes for everyone to answer the survey. Don't worry, this is such a quick survey. Just, you know, it's a way for us to gauge the things that you've learned today and our whole webinar as a whole. So, okay, you guys, one more minute for everyone. I think everyone is done. Am I correct? Okay, do send in your done, all right, so that we can gauge if you are all done answering our survey. Okay, super exciting for the last part of our event. And once again, we would really appreciate you guys, joining us in our future webinars. Okay, there we go. So we can see all of your names in our wheel of names. Okay, so we will be starting our raffle. The first winner of our Amazon or Grab voucher is, all right, who could our winner be? Harry. TCS. Are you here, Harry? Do you say hi, hello, or make your presence known? Just anything to let us know if you are here. Harry TCS. Are you here, Harry? All right. Let's just wait a few more seconds for Harry because we need you guys to make your presence known, or else we will be making another round of okay. Yes, he is here. Okay, congratulations to Harry. Next. Our next winner is George Kadavan. Okay. George, are you here? George, do let us know if you are here. Yes. Okay. I see George already. There you go. Hi, George. Congratulations for winning your Amazon or Grab voucher. Okay. For our third winner, let's see who our lucky winner is. And we have Sunil from Accenture. All right. Where is Sunil? Hi, Sunil. Are you here? Yes, you are here. I see you already. Congratulations for your Amazon or Grab voucher. Again, if you are called, we will be in contact with you through email. So do stay tuned for that email. Our fourth winner for the day is, let's see who it is. It's Natra Hanifa. Okay, are you here? There we go. I see. I see already. Hi, hello. I love how fast you responded. Okay. Now we are down to our last winner for the Amazon and Grab voucher. Who could our lucky winner be? Okay, let's look. We have Peter Julian Evangelista. Okay. Peter Julian Evangelista, are you here? Do say hi or hello. Someone already said congrats, so I'm pretty sure. There we go. I already saw Peter. I love how fast you guys are in responding. Okay, so we are now down to our last giveaway for the day. This is our main prize, which is the Apple Watch Series 10. So I'm super excited. Who could our lucky winner be? Who could it be, guys? Who is our lucky winner? There we have it. We have Shubanan Sinha from Accenture. All right, congratulations to you. Are you here? Oh, I do hope you are here because this is the Apple Watch Series 10. Yes, I saw you already. Congratulations to you and congratulations to everyone who won and, of course, joined us for today's webinar. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this webinar. As I can see, everyone's really engaged. And, I love that our energy started so strong and ended even stronger. So that's really a good sign. By the way, my name is Ella, once again, your host for today. And for all of our lucky winners, we will be getting in touch with you through email. So do keep your lines open. Once again, thank you so much for joining us and see you in the future. Bye, everyone.
What inspires innovation? The next game changer. Advances in sustainable technology. What pushes the frontiers of business? Breakthroughs in medicine. Voyages in space. Well, it all starts with data. And for decades, Hitachi Vantara has been building data's strongest, most resilient infrastructure, protecting its integrity, unlocking its true value. Whenever data is created, wherever it's stored, we're there, orchestrating simplicity and security by bringing data clarity to mission-critical environments. With over 17,000 customers and partners, global enterprises trust Hitachi Vantara. Combining Japanese precision engineering with Silicon Valley AI-powered innovation, we are architecting the world's data foundation, a foundation that endures change. Hitachi Vantara, the data foundation for innovation.